Shangri-La Frontier is casually proving time and time again why it is the best video game anime. Listen, we can all have our opinions on what is or isn't, but there's something about watching Shangri-La, not only because it's just a legitimately fun world that you wish you could play like a video game, but it's the way constantly this author just does things that scream, I literally have done that in a video game. But they're doing it in a way that's obviously in the VR, realistic, I touch, I feel, I see things as if they're real. But watching this latest episode, Season 2, Episode 4, and the idea of something getting basically patched or nerfed, and the frustration that gamers go through when they have some sort of cheese, some sort of manipulation that maybe wasn't quite intended by the game devs, and sometimes stuff ends up getting patched. And in this case, it was the Sunraku nerf, because if we remember at the end of Season 1, the whole Scorpion, he would go into Inventoria, let them crash in, he would pop out, collect the goodies, rinse and repeat, right? Really not what's intended by the game devs. So of course, eventually things are going to get a little tweaked. And the idea of this whole system, it immediately reminded me of Tears of the Kingdom. That was the game I immediately went to, because if anyone's played Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, there was a duplication glitch, and this duplication glitch was fantastic, because collecting items, it can be a grind to a point where it's not really fun for your average gamer. Now some people like that, that's great, it's a single player game, do whatever you enjoy, but people found ways to duplicate, and Nintendo kept patching, they kept removing the duplication glitch, but the gaming community refused to go down, and there was like 7 versions. It got to the point that I turned off my auto updates and disconnected from the internet. I went to airplane mode, and for 3 months my Switch refused to update, because I was like, I am not going to, because eventually it got to the point where the duplication glitch was a little too iffy. But man, watching an anime that just gets what gamers go through and the loopholes we'll figure out. Now in this case, it's an online game, so he had to still play by the rules. But just watching this brings out such joy for me, and truly, it's the perfect video game experience in anime form, and no one can convince me otherwise. Of course, I have full live reactions over on Patreon if you want to see me gush about this wonderful show in real time. It's over there exclusively. So, we ended last week with a clan alliance, and we get to kind of learn a bit more about why old Pencil is so gung-ho about making said clan alliance. Everyone agreed to it. It's kind of villainous, it's kind of evil at face value, because she pretty much is saying, like, listen, if we get all these people, we already have like 5 steps ahead of your average guild here. We can continue to be ahead of everyone and progress and be the most powerful group of people playing this game. And she's kind of laughing like a maniac when she's saying all this, but I love the idea that she's like, hey, listen, I used to just be given the stick when I got people to go along with my shit, but I'm now giving them a bit of a carrot in relation to the whole, if you're gonna get a horse to pull you, at least dangle the carrot in front of them, don't just smack them in the head. It's just so good, and it makes so much sense, but this was primarily a Sunraku focused episode, and it was focused on something I didn't think they were going to touch upon again. And this is because I think anime has trained me to just assume that if you're no longer in a season, usually it means they pushed past it, which isn't great storytelling and usually means there's like cut content. But Shangri-La is like, nah, we ended the last season really focused on those scorpions, the crystal scorpions, but those are still going to be there. And I think it once again ties into the gamer mindset, because even if you like, here's the thing, when you're playing video games, whether it is an online game, whether it's a single player game, sometimes you will start a quest or you'll do a mission that you made up yourself. So in this case, Sunraku was grinding out the crystal scorpions. But sometimes you gotta come back later. But if you're an actual gamer, one of 2 things will happen. You will forget, because there's just so much shit you're doing. That can happen. Or you'll come back to it later. And he came back to it. The more I see of this show, the more I'm like, listen, so many people when they bring up what is the best video game inspired anime, they bring up things and there's a couple of examples like, yeah, that's really good. But with Shangri-La, you can write a book that's the size of an encyclopedia. Because every episode has like a handful, if not a dozen moments that feel truly like people are playing a video game that not only you want to watch and play yourself because it's that cool, but they just continue to make the story interesting, because the story at the end of the day is watching someone beat a video game. I watch Let's Plays, I watch Twitch streamers play single player games. I'm not playing it. The story of their life, I don't give a shit what's going on behind the scenes in their personal life, I'm watching them play said video game. And for Sunraku, yeah, there's a little bit of like real character moments where you're like, okay, a girl wants to date Sanraku, ain't gonna go anywhere, but you know what? There's a little of that. But the thing that people watch this show for is watching how the world's gonna open up, how it's gonna evolve, what Sanraku's gonna get. Really, the story is the story of the game. Not because they're trapped in there, but because it's like, oh, look at this NPC who's a blacksmith who's going to become this legendary blacksmith needs a shit ton of these items that you can only get from the Crystal Scorpions. Super rare to get, but, you know, obviously, like, we'll be able to progress that story there. It's so refreshing having a show where it's like, you don't have to trap them in the video game. You don't have to make it say, like, oh, you have to, if they die, you know, they're dead for good. No, it's like, if they die, sometimes, yeah, they could get robbed, or they'll lose this, that, and the third. There is that fear that if you keep a mule with you, then if she dies, she's dead for good because she doesn't come back. So there's a way to have stakes, but it feels like a video game. And just the fact that I can come out of these episodes, we are now officially 29 episodes deep into the Shangri-La Frontier world. And I really feel like we're still just scratching the surface because at the end of the day, this feels like a massive MMORPG. It feels like something that was actually designed to be played. And the more I see of it, the more I realize how brilliant the author is and how clearly passionate they are about video games. And most importantly, how passionate the studio in question is. 'Cause I'm pretty sure this studio who's adapting Shangri-La doesn't do season 2s. If I'm not mistaken, this might be their only or one of their only second seasons they've ever done. And I really hope this is just now their priority. Screw adapting anything else, just keep making Shangri-La, because there's a shit ton of material out here. And given the quick turnaround, given the consistent quality, I remember when the end of season 1 was happening, people were talking shit about the 3D Scorpions. I still think that's ridiculous. The 3D Scorpions looked amazing, and the idea that getting around a situation that essentially nerfed him, what does he do? Well, this is a video game that's well programmed. It follows the laws of physics by, you know, our own Earth standards. So the idea that if he can't use Inventoria to crash them out, he grinds a level so he can now double jump with a new skill. And sure, the Scorpions don't want to fall off the ledge, but with enough force of all of them collectively, he can then grind out their gear at the end of at the bottom of the pit. It's brilliant. It feels and functions like a video game, and if VR was really this realistic for us, this is the type of shit gamers would be trying to do left, right. The fact that I see how the gaming community comes together for games that don't have this level of realism. If it had that level of realism, it's exactly how it's going to be. People can disagree and have their favorites, but I truly think this is the best designed and put together video game anime, and I will die on that hill. Thoughts down below, leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, we got those full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. So today we got Neos Ishigami, CCC Studios, Raffle Borch, Ahmed Basser, Renaud Nidu, Tori Holland, and we also have Kevin. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and y'all have a good one.